Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kerrville Weekly News Roundup. We are the co founders of the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network and your hosts for today's news session. We're going to talk about our top news picks for the week. All three of us are here today. Gilbert is not on assignment this week, he's here with us in person. But as always, Tom, why don't you do the honors and kick us off?
Sure. The city council passed a peddler's ordinance, which regulates people coming to your house for door to door sales. And there was a huge controversy around this, brought on by largely Roman Garcia, councilman, who we'll talk about in our second story. But he claimed that this would prevent political speech in the form of political solicitation. It had nothing to do with that. It dealt with people coming to your house to sell you something, whether it be Avon, whether it be Encyclopedia Britannica, whether it be Amway, or whether it be anybody else. And the point of the ordinance was not to prevent people from doing this. One, they have to register with the city to tell the city they're doing it. But two, it did prevent people from coming to your house between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. I don't want anybody coming to my house after dark. And I don't want anybody banging on the door unless it's emergency services saying you got a fire, get out of the house. I'm certainly in favor of this ordinance. Once again, I'm more than happy to talk to a peddler, to talk to a Jehovah's Witness, to talk to a Republican who comes to my house during the daylight hours. But I'm not willing to do it after 8 p.m. So I thought the ordinance was drafted narrowly. It solved a need or helps to solve a problem. I don't know why Roman Garcia went so bonkers over it, other than his own obstinance, but it passed 4-1.
But my 2 stories are, in case you haven't heard, we've got something big going on all over the country pretty soon. And no, I'm not talking
The
about the
eclipse.
eclipse.
Oh, dang,
Not
man.
even close. I'm talking about income tax season. If you haven't filed your income tax return and you need some help, there's some free assistance available to you. And this is geared mostly towards seniors and those that are perhaps don't have the means to get professional preparation done. Over at the Dietert Center, the AARP is sponsoring a free tax prep and filing program, and they have some volunteers over there that will help you prepare your tax return and make sure it gets filed in a timely manner. Now, of course, there's some regulations. You have to be under a certain income level, you have to be over a certain age, and of course, you have to really have just a basic type of return. No oil royalties or complicated K1s and things like that. But for more information, if you need some help trying to figure out what those regulations are and whether or not you qualify, you can always call the Dietert Center. Their phone number is 830-792-4044. And there's limited times, and they prefer that you make an appointment, but they do offer drop-in services. But to be sure and to get some more information, you can call the Dietert Center, 830-792-4044. That's story number 1 for me. And then story number 2, in case you haven't heard, in Kerrville, we just finished our national primaries and local county commissioner elections. And for a lot of people, there was a lot of surprise about who was elected. Of course, we had 3 people running for county commissioner in precinct 1. The eventual winner was Tom Jones. And I say eventual winner because uh, whoever won the Republican primary was going to win the election because there's no Democratic opposition. So Tom Jones was won the primary, and he is the presumptive county commissioner for precinct 1 here pretty soon. And then for place number 3, we had 3 people also running for that position, and a gentleman by the name of Chase Holt, I believe, won that position. And there again, too, is a bit of a surprise about who won, but nonetheless, because they won their primaries, they are going to be the presumptive elected officials. And we follow that up soon with city elections here in Kerrville. We have
Yes.
2 positions on the city council that are up for reelection. Place number 3 and place number 4, and we have our mayor's spot up for reelection. If you haven't heard, there's 2 people running for mayor, Joe Herring, who is a prominent local citizen, and he was previously mayor in years ago. He is running against current city councilman Roman Garcia. And so we've got those two people running for mayor. And then we've got council members. Brenda Hughes is running for place 3 against, I believe it is Barbara Duell Ferguson. And then for place 4, we've got two folks that are running, Kent McKinney and a gentleman by the name of Brad Bates. He was a mayoral candidate a few years ago and lost, but that election is coming up soon, Saturday, May the 4th to be exact. That'll be the general election for Kerrville City Council. But frankly, it doesn't matter to me who you vote for. You just need to get out and vote because if
Mm,
you live in
yes.
Kerrville, you need to have a say in how this city is run. And interestingly enough, those people that are running for those seats, they have very different views on how the city should be run and the policies that the city should enact. So I would encourage you all to study the candidates and find out who you think is best. And if possible, even attend a candidate forum. Learn as much as you can about these folks because it's important they impact how the city is run and your tax dollars are spent.
Yeah, but if you don't care, you should care. That's the message, I think. That's very important. So thank you, Gilbert. Appreciate it.
Yep.
I have 2 mentions today. I call them stories, but one is the story about the eclipse. So I am going to talk about the eclipse just because I have seen over the last week, I've probably seen 4 or 5 different posts from either municipalities or emergency service entities here in the local area about awareness around the eclipse. We know it's coming. It's getting pretty close. We're just several weeks out. We don't, it's up in the air about how many people we think are going to be here. Of course, a lot of the businesses that kind of have their hand in the cookie jar as far as selling stuff, we're hoping that there is a good mass of people that come here, but maybe not enough to overrun and make the whole thing a higher risk setting. We don't want that. We don't want tragedies happen. We don't want people get injured or harmed or stuck on the side of the highway and having to pee in a bottle or worse.
We don't want to run out of water, run out of
Yeah,
food and
the
groceries.
essentials, right?
Of course.
I had someone hit me up actually that lived in the Austin area this last week and was asking, they knew I lived here and they were inquiring about good places to go and talk, or I mean, look at the eclipse. And we were talking about that. And I just said, listen, just, you could probably find a spot and day trip it, but you got to make sure that you have gas, bring food, water, and toilet paper. And then outside of that, you're probably okay. Anyway, that's coming up quick. So just want to give a quick note about that. And there's plenty of people. There's meetings like the chamber's hosting something this evening. Actually, today's Thursday when we're filming this, and they're hosting an event this evening geared towards businesses about what's the latest updates around the fire and local police department and how they're planning on handling everything here. So anyway, enough about that. Moving on to my second mention or second story, the VA hospital here, which has a decent size economic footprint here in our local community, is eyeballing a project that would bring about 50 individual apartments to their grounds here. They have not gotten the project approved yet, but just recently they had a meeting about it in one of the auditoriums there on the VA grounds. And they're very hopeful that it gets approved. From my understanding, the last project that they did similar to this was about 10 years ago. So they are in much need of it, and it would bring much needed relief for filling some spots for some veterans that need that kind of support here in our local community. And with that, I think that will wrap us up for today. Last mentions for the day. What do you got going on this weekend?
I'm going to Austin on Sunday to see my fellow U of M law school classmate or graduate, not classmate, Barb McQuaid, who has written a book called Attack from Within about disinformation in the United States. It's on the New York Times bestseller list. I think it's a must read for anyone interested in where we are currently politically and for the 2024 election. She's having a book signing. So I'm going to go up and buy a book and have her sign it Go Blue and hear about her book.
Can we get those distributed here to Kerrville? Because I feel like we might have a need for something like that here.
Start a book club.
There you go.
Disinformation. That's
We're not clapping for
we're not,
disinformation.
we're not clamoring for disinformation. Disinformation is a huge topic, and it's important that we all stay up on what's going on there. For me, anyway, this weekend, probably going to attend a memorial service for one of my customers. They had a loved one that passed away, and I'm also going to prepare for the eclipse. Going to buy some extra groceries just in case. Stock up on my weapons and ammunition, and board
your
up my
toilet-
windows
In your toilet paper.
and the toilet paper and make sure I'm ready for when the zombie apocalypse happens.
That's and for myself, we're not doing much this weekend. It's nice that we finally have a down weekend. I was able to get out on the North Fork like a weekend or two ago. That was the first time in 2024 I was able to get out there and check the water levels and fly fish. I even caught some fish. Unfortunately, my cousin that I went with didn't catch anything, and he's a more experienced fisherman, so I got to rub that in his face. But yeah, we're just what time that we do have this weekend, we're going to try to get outside if the weather is decent because we are supposed to get some rain, which would be nice, but it would also be nice to have some of the days that we've had this week over the weekend for us to get out and enjoy some of the hill country amenities and weather.
Before we
So,
get inundated with 500,000 people coming to the eclipse.
yeah. And I think that it's going to be, I can't wait to see how either far off the mark we are with that or if it does end up being like that much, right? Because there's a bunch of talks about if it is 500,000 people, it doesn't mean 500,000 people in Kerrville. It could just be like in the surrounding areas, and we would never really see that. We just see the traffic that comes through Kerrville. But anyway, okay, that will do it for us today, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, get out and enjoy the weather if you're able, and we will see you next week.